Yo, what is going on, guys? Hutch322 here back, and today we have another ASL video. And today, to help me out, I have
We got Mr. Susie or Sewell.
so we have Susie here, and today we're going to be doing a playoff implications video, which is going to tell you guys how each team is doing and what they have to do to make the playoffs, and we're gonna go over every team. And yeah, all right, Susie, go ahead and read off the first one. Number 14.
Oh, for the first team, the team currently in 14th place, we have Malone and the St. Louis Swablues. Right now, Malone has a donut in the win column. He has a minus 25 differential. He's 4 games back, and he's not clinched yet. Malone has a decently difficult schedule for the rest of the season, with 4 games against opponents with winning records, but his other 2 games are against 2 teams that are near the bottom of the standings.
hmm Yeah, Malone is not eliminated from playoffs because he's only 4 games back and there are 6 games left in the season. So if he wins out, he has a slightly okay chance at making playoffs, but he really has to win out, otherwise he's going to be eliminated from playoff contention. So Malone, you're not out of it, but you got to pull out some serious dubs in the next 6 weeks. And yeah, he does have a pretty tough schedule with stuff like Keister and Laurie in there. So
Yep.
next up, we have the Royal Gardevoir, coached by Gustavo. 2-5 with a minus 14 differential. Only 2 games back, no clinches, no eliminations. Gustavo's 2-5, which doesn't look like a great record, but he's still not that far out of it. And as you can see, his games are pretty tough. He's got to play some really good opponents upcoming. But as long as he wins 5 of his next 6, he will likely make playoffs. Like basically, you're aiming for 7-6. If there is a scenario otherwise, we will let you guys know.
Yeah, so Gustavo's been picking up his play in the recent weeks. I think he's I think he's only 2 games back, but also just by his play as he's beat some good opponents such as TG. And I think that if Gustavo can pick up some good wins against both Ghosta and Malone, which are games he definitely needs to win, it puts him at a 4 and 5 spot where he just needs to beat a few of the other opponents. And he can afford to lose maybe 1 game, I believe, right?
Yeah, yeah. And 6-7 is technically still possible right now. Not likely, but it's technically possible right now, I think. So yeah, like you said, he's gotta pull out those games and can maybe lose one to like Laurie or Keister. So go ahead and introduce the next one.
Next team we have is the Nightmare Nido King, coached by Inaria. Right now, they're sitting in the same boat as Gustavo, 2 and 5, 2 games back, but with a better differential at minus 12, and they have not clinched yet. For the rest of their season, their schedule is very tough. They're facing 4 teams that are 4 and 3, and then they're facing Keister, who's 6 and 1, and then Static is 3 and 4, but is not having that bad of a season himself.
Yeah, Anaria has really got to pull it back, like we said about Gustavo. Got to go 5-1 in their next matches, and differential is probably gonna matter. So you got to win some big matches. I forgot to mention that because like last season, it literally came down to differential for the 6 seeds, so it does matter a lot. And again, there have been no eliminations or no clinches this week, so that spot is pretty irrelevant. But Anaria has a very good team, but yeah, has a very tough schedule coming up, so it's gonna be tricky. And next up, for the 11th spot, we have the Kelio Hub Resolutes, coached by Ghost. 2-5 with a -6 differential, which that is going to help Ghost down the line because a -6 differential is actually pretty good for having lost 5 games. So if he does make a pretty good playoff run here, that pretty what you would call it quote unquote high differential is gonna help him. Only 2 games back. Does not have a very tough schedule. I mean, plays some threats like TG or Laurie, but otherwise plays like Malone and Rocker and Gustavo, which matches he should win.
Oh yeah, Ghost. Not a big fan of his team personally. He is, but he's starting to really play well. He's getting more grasp for his team and good. Losing 5 games, only having a differential of -6. That's actually insanely good. Schedule is. I don't. I think he could. I think he can definitely make a pushback as he's a very good battler.
Yeah, for sure. Next up,
Next up, we have my favorite battler in this entire league, Rocker Boy Gaming, and the Florida Floatzels. 3-4 with a -8 differential. He's only 1 game back, and he's currently 10th in our rankings. Rocker's got a schedule that consists of a lot of 4-3 teams, as do many coaches in this league, as literally like half the league is full of teams that are 4-3.
yeah, I think there's like 5 or 6 4-3 teams.
So Rocker's got a schedule that the hardest one in the league. He's got probably like a mid-tier difficulty in his schedule to finish the season, and it's definitely a schedule that he could uh, do very well with and have a good shot at making the playoffs.
Yeah, the other coaches that we have listed off, I give him like a 15% chance to make playoffs. I give Rocker like somewhere around like a 30 or 35, just because he's only 1 game back. So he could finish this season going 4-2 in his next couple of games, which is 100% doable. That is easily doable because he'll probably lose one to Keister just because Keister's team is amazing, and then he can use that loss on something else. And then he has lower games with less threatening opponents like Ghost, but he does play a lot of 4-3 teams, so he's gonna have to pull out dubs against the 4-3 teams. But Rocker has some games where he could afford to lose them and he could still make it. But that differential being at -8 it might screw him over in the end, just because differentials do matter, like I said. But Rocker has an okay chance to make the playoffs this season after not winning a single game last season because those 2 wins were from Shadow. All right. Next up, we have the Intermilotic, and coached by Static, went 3-4 with a -4, so a okay differential right there. They're only 1 game back, and they play pretty decent teams. 4-3 teams, 2-5, 3-4. I give Static the same odds as Rocker, just Static has a lower differential, so I'd maybe give him like a 40%, just because he is a better differential, and -4 can easily be made up in a couple of games. So, like I said about Rocker, Static's going to have to go 4-2. I definitely think that's doable because he has already gotten the matches against like TG or Keister out of the way, so he doesn't have to play the top 2 spots.
Definitely Static. I'd say yeah, you're about right with that 40% chance of him making the playoffs. He's been in this position before as he made the playoffs last season, and this season start putting more time into his prep as these weeks get closer and closer to the playoffs. If he can get a few wins off the bat, like maybe we're rattling off 3 in a row over both you, me, and Demaster, he's going to be sitting very, very pretty.
Yeah, yeah, that'll really shake up the playoffs. So next up, go ahead and introduce yourself.
So in the 8th spot, there's a really good coach, Mr. Spider 32, air quotes, Susie, coach of the Utah Hoots, 4-3 with a +1 differential. Yes, for the first time in a league, I'm not at a negative differential. Pretty proud of that. I am 0 games back, and my schedule for the rest of the season actually might be one of the easier ones in the league going towards this stretch run. I played a master, my favorite game of every year. I get to play Static. Ooh, no, another chance for a mini or sweep if you can get that somehow. I get to play Brad. That's going to be terrifying. I get to play Arya, a very good coach. I get to play Rocker Boy Gaming, always a treat. And then I get just shellacked by TG.
Yeah, yeah. So if you just heard a beep or just the audio went blank, that's because I edited it out. No reason why. Just I edited it out. So, anyways, we have the Utah Hoots here. They're eighth, and like I said, that differential is gonna be pretty important because you're gonna see the next three teams what their differentials are. Yeah, it's gonna come down to the wire. I give you a pretty good shot at making playoffs. I would say like 60. I'll probably give every 4-3 team a 60 unless they have really high differential. So yeah, you have one of the easier schedules. I think mine might be easier, but you definitely have an easier schedule. So all you got to do is go 3-3, and I think you'll make playoffs. Next up, we have Demaster, coach of the Denver Nummels, 4-3 with a +5 differential. Uh,
Ooh.
Still not in a playoff spot just because the next team has a higher differential. But yeah, the Master has a decently easy schedule as well because you have to go 3-3, and well, if you're 4-3, you got to go 3-3 to try and make playoffs. Of course, unless there are teams that are better than you that are in the playoff spot. But he plays three under 500 teams, so I definitely think he can make a 7-6 run. Plus his teams that he plays, he's already played Keister and TGE, so Laurie has the best differential that he'd be playing. So again, I give Demaster like a 60% chance or whatnot to make playoffs.
Yeah, he's a really good shot, I think. He's definitely played really well, and we can see that he puts more time into his prep when it's a game he cares about. And I think once he starts noticing how close this race is, he's going to start putting more and more prep in and bring better sets. Also, week 8 is going to be a pretty important battle, me versus him. We're both 4-3, and the winner of this is going to be in a really good spot going forward at a 5-3 record with a pretty good differential.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree. All right, so go ahead and introduce the number 6 seed for playoffs.
In the 6th seed, we have the coach of the most rock weak team in the league. We got
True.
Hutch and the Portland Timbers.
This is facts. Or hazards in general.
+6 differential. Hutch has somehow found his way into a playoff spot despite being an incompetent battler with an incompetent roster.
Basically,
Plus,
basically.
Hutch has got a pretty easy schedule that he can just cruise on to the playoffs if he keeps bringing his solid prep. And if he's able to eliminate hazards from hurting his team, I don't see a way where Hutch does not make playoffs. I give him around a 75% chance of making the playoffs.
Hey, I didn't bring Fortress to the match against you because it got absolutely destroyed in the matchup.
I don't know. You needed it. I had Skarmory.
I still should have brought it. I shouldn't have brought Doublade. I'm stupid. Whatever. Getting off track. Okay, so I'm here with a 4-3 with a +6. As you saw, Demaster was a +5. So differential, of course, it's gonna matter. And I do think I have the easiest schedule going into the playoffs. I do play TG and Brad, but beyond that, I play a lot of under 500 teams because I've already played uh, most of my harder schedule, and I've gotten 4 wins out of it. So I'm just gonna try and pull through, and uh, I would give myself like a 65% chance, um, maybe still 60. I don't really know. Anyways, next up, we got the Contract Killers, coached by Anderson, 4-3 with a +7 differential.
Oh,
It's actually insane how close this is, and Brad's got a decently tough schedule going from here on out. He's got to play 4 teams that are above 500, and got to go 3-3. He could definitely do it, even though his team isn't that great. It is well, I'm not gonna say it's that great. I'll say it's interesting just because he uses it pretty well, and he's just a phenomenal battler and a great prepper. So he could definitely make playoffs. I would give him like a 70% chance.
yeah, Brad. His prep is going to get weeks continue, and I think everyone left on the schedule, which includes you and me, Hutch, are going to be very scared and very interested to see what kind of prep he brings, as he has to find a way to somehow beat these A tier Mons with his fun uh,
He is basically just a
loser
UU.
Mons.
He is a UU team essentially.
Exactly. But he's playing great, and after a really big win in the Commish Bowl, he's a lot of momentum going forward. And I give him like an 85% chance of making playoffs just because he's such an experienced veteran,
Yeah,
getting
yeah,
a good feel for his team.
yeah. I can definitely see where you're coming from with that 85%. Go ahead and introduce the next team, which is in fourth.
Next spot, we have Ian, the coach of the Altaria Motives and the Arcane Arcaniners. He's sitting with a very, very, very nice differential at plus 10, even though his record's only 4-3. Uh, Ian's got I guess, an average schedule. He has a few easy games, but at the same time, he's supposed to play Laurie and he's supposed to play TG. Other than making the playoffs, and I would be very surprised if he didn't, frankly.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. His plus 10 differential is just ridiculous just because he's been winning pretty big matches, and I give him like an 80% chance to make playoffs just because he is 4-3, so there is still ways he can slip up. But he has a semi-easy schedule, and he has a really high differential, so I don't really see a playoffs where Ian doesn't make it. So next up, we have the Netherlandians coached by Laurie. Actually, not a 4-3 team. She's 5-2. Her differential is fairly low, so if she drops down into lower seeds if she loses a couple games, then that's going to happen because of her differential likely. But she is 5-2, so she really can go 2-4 in her next games, and I give her like a 95% chance. No, I'll give her a 90% chance to make playoffs. Just because her schedule is really easy for only having to go 2-4. Uh, has a lot of lower record teams. Like there are three teams that are under 500. She only has to win two of those games. Um, I definitely see Laurie in the playoffs. I don't really see her without going to the playoffs. So yeah, you there?
Sorry, I was interrupted really fast by my
Okay.
sister. So, Laurie, one thing that's about Laurie is she's playing very well, but as the master pointed out in the PR video that will be going up soon, uh, she brings very predictable and a lot of the same sets every week, which, if I believe other coaches will just look back at her replays, they could definitely learn a lot and almost predict what set's going to be coming each week. A little more time into all of her prep to ensure that she doesn't bring repetitive sets every week that are going to be easy to be read in these last 6 weeks.
Yeah, like I'm sure you're not talking about on like predictable mons where it's like that's exactly what they're gonna run every single week, like Rotom forms and stuff like that. I don't think she has Rotom form, but yeah, she has versatile mons and really needs to utilize that. All right, go ahead and introduce the first round by second seed.
The second seed, we have the coach of the Phoenix Flygons, Keister, aka the real Cam. He's 6-1 with a plus 14. And right now, Keister's sitting pretty nice with the first round bye at this point. Don't be sitting on with a little golden spoon or a little silver spoon up your ass, Keister. You have to still win these last few games. But right now, you've got a first round bye. And your schedule, you've got a few games that I think you're definitely going to have a. You still have to play Brad and TG, though, so you never know.
Yeah. Keister is 6-1 with a plus 14 differential, as you said. So he really only needs to win one more game. I'm sure he'd like to win more, but I give him a 98% chance to make playoffs
98.
because like, dude, his schedule is relatively easy, and he only has to win one game really. I'm sure if you win a couple more, you're clinching it. But yeah, his schedule is too easy for him not to get in. Like I don't see a playoffs without Keister. It doesn't make any sense to me if he doesn't make it. So last but certainly not least, quite the most, we have the BC Biberals coached by TG, 6-1 with a plus 22 differential. He's gotten some big wins. His only loss being to Gustavo. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention, Keister's only loss was to the Timbers, me, and
Up
TG.
junior on Horn Hutch.
No, 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 no. I was just saying what their only loss was too. But TG has a pretty difficult schedule coming up. Not gonna lie, he's played some weaker teams in these weeks, so this might get very, very troublesome for him because he's gonna have to play Laurie. He's got to play Keister. He's got to play some 4-3 teams.
You got to
Uh,
play me.
you are a 4-3 team, so yeah, I think he will definitely pull it out just because he's a phenomenal prepper and a great battler, and he's only really got to win one game, so I definitely see him pulling it out. But he has a tough schedule.
Yeah, right now, he's had the season that's been the closest to immaculate out of anyone. Then again, in the ASL, everyone's gonna get a blemish on their record at some time. It's just that competitive of a league, and all the battlers are just that close in skill. So TG, all you got to do, keep playing like how you've been playing, practicing before the playoffs, and you're gonna have a really good shot at taking home a ship if you keep playing this way with your team. I just say relax and just have fun these last few weeks.
Yeah, I'll also give him a 98% chance.
99.9.
All right, so let's go to a screenshot that I took of the standings. So anything about the standings that you want to comment on, Susie?
Just over how top of the red part's just so close with all these 4-3 and 3-4 teams. It's really crazy. This middle is just so congested, and any one of these teams ranging from 4 to 10 has a good shot at making the playoffs, which is just insane.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say after this week, the playoff picture is going to be really shaken up because we have you playing the Master. Um, I play Static, which is close there. Keister plays Anderson, and who does Ian play? Let me check. Who does he play? He plays Anaria. So, if a lot of 4-3 teams lose or win, well, if a lot of them differentiate in their results, it's gonna really shake up the playoffs and make for a really good video next week in playoff implications. So, you want to take us out, Susie?
Hope you guys enjoyed us wasting your time for probably about 27
23 minutes.
minutes is my guess. 27 or no?
23.
That was close. I hope we were some knowledge on the playoff picture and the implications. And I hope we inspired some of the coaches, such as Malone, to go win out and make this even more interesting. So, I guess just peace out, guys.
All right, see you guys later. Bye.